three classes, I have discussed the terms work and power and some simpler cases in calculation of work and power. And I have also discussed some three problems in calculation of work and power. So next I am going to discuss the term energy. So after completing the theory part in work power energy, I will be showing you the assignment in work power energy, which contains a large number of multiple choice questions. But some of the students will be more eager to solve the questions from assignment before the theory part is completed. So, but we usually advise the students to first go through these classes where I am discussing theory and in between few problems related to the theory discussed in each class. So after completing the complete theory, you can go through the questions in assignment in work power energy. But if you are more eager to work out the problems at the earliest, so you can also do like this. Before you go through this class and next classes, you can first go through the first 15 questions in the assignment in work power energy, so that the first 15 or 20 questions in the work power energy will be just based on the calculation of work and power, which do not involve the terms kinetic energy and conservative energy. Thereby, if you solve some problems based on the concepts which we have already discussed, then the concepts get consolidated more clearly. But don't go through only problems and leave the theory part completely. Some of the students have this tendency that they will be having a lot of interest only in going through the problem. They will not pay equal interest for theory part. So that's one of the reasons for the lack of good performance in spite of hard work by the students, because they directly go for practice of problems in each chapter without going to the classes meant for theory. So your problem solving ability and your understanding of basic concept and theory part, they are not independent. They are interdependent. So one can be very good in solving problems only when the student is very good in theory, in basic theory part. Okay, next I am going to discuss the term energy. So as we are already familiar with all these terms, work, power, energy, kinetic energy, potential energy, etc., because you have already might have heard these terms in the school syllabus, the school level physics only. But we now discuss these terms sometimes in a different way. So in the school level, you say energy is defined as a capacity for doing work. So any body which is capable of doing some work is said to be having some energy. So there are various kinds of energies as you study in the lower classes: mechanical energy, electrical energy, sound energy, light energy, etc. But in mechanics, in junior intermediate syllabus, we confine our discussion mostly for mechanical energy in mechanics and thermal energy in heat and thermodynamics. So at present, will be confining our discussion only for mechanical energy. That means energy that is possessed by a body due to the mechanical influence or due to the mechanical forces acting on it, we call it mechanical energy. There are two types of mechanical energy. One is the kinetic energy, the other is the potential energy. So kinetic energy, as you study all these things in the school syllabus itself, but still we mention once. So kinetic energy of the body is the capacity of the body for doing work due to its motion. So a moving body will have some capacity for doing work due to its motion. which is called as the kinetic energy of the body. That means kinetic energy of the body in motion is measured by calculating the amount of work which the body can do against a retarding force, and the body is brought to rest by application of the retarding force. So we can give as you study the definition for kinetic energy in the lower classes, probably like this. Kinetic energy of a body can be defined as the energy possessed by the body by virtue of its motion. So kinetic energy of the body can be defined as the energy possessed by the body by virtue of its motion. So kinetic energy, the expression for kinetic energy of the body can be derived by calculating the amount of work which the body can do against the retarding force acting on it when it is brought to rest by application of the retarding force. So it can be shown that now we write the expression for kinetic energy here. You don't start writing the notes at present. I will be showing you the notes later as usual. First you just concentrate only to listen to me. Don't write running notes when I am discussing the theory part. You just concentrate only to listen. So I will be showing you the notes in the later part of the discussion after completing the discussion. So kinetic energy. So kinetic energy of the body. Of course, we discuss about translational kinetic energy of the body. That means the kinetic energy of the body which is performing pure translatory motion. Of course, in rotational mechanics, I mean when we discuss about rotational motion, then before we discuss about rotational motion of the body, we discuss the distinction between pure translatory motion and pure rotational motion. So at present our discussion is confined to the examples in pure translatory motion. So when a body performs pure translatory motion, every particle of the body undergoes same linear displacement in the same direction in a given time interval. So when the body performs pure translatory motion at any particular instant, the velocity will be same for all the particles of the body. So kinetic energy of the body in pure translatory motion is equal to half into mass of the body multiplied by square of the magnitude of linear velocity of the body. So in short form, translational kinetic energy of the body is given by K equal to half mv square. M is the mass of the body, V is the magnitude of linear velocity of the body. So kinetic energy of the body can never be a negative quantity. Kinetic energy of the body is always greater than or equal to 0. So when the body is at rest, we say velocity is 0, then kinetic energy is 0. The body is in motion, then kinetic energy of the body is greater than 0. So kinetic energy of a body is always positive, it can never be a negative quantity. So mathematically speaking, some of the examples we may give negative sign for velocity, but square of the velocity or square of the magnitude of velocity cannot be negative. And mass m is always positive. So kinetic energy of body is always a positive quantity. And as you study in lower classes, energy and work have same units and dimensions. So work is expressed in joule in SI system, energy, any form of energy is also expressed in joule. So then next we are going to I'm going to discuss the relationship between linear movement of the body and kinetic energy of the body in pure translatory motion. This relationship will be used in good number of questions. The magnitude of the linear movement of the body for the body in pure translatory motion are denoted by letter P. That can be written as product of the mass of the body and magnitude of linear velocity of the body. You can write magnitude of linear velocity as V equal to P by M. So translational kinetic energy of the body, you can write half mv square, which you can also write half mv into V. This you can write half PV. Sometimes this form is used in some of the questions, later stages. So when you can also write V equal to P by M. Therefore, translational kinetic energy of the body in terms of the linear of the body and mass of the body is given by P square by 2M. From same equation, you can also write 2M into kinetic energy equal to P square. So magnitude of the linear moment of the body in terms of its kinetic energy can be written as root of 2M into kinetic energy. Please don't copy the notes, running notes now. Will be shown the notes later. Just only concentrate to listen. So magnitude of linear of the body in terms of its kinetic energy is given by P equal to root of 2M into Ke. So in some of the problems, you may have to compare the kinetic energies of two different masses. But in some problems, you may compare the final kinetic energy of the body with the initial kinetic of same body, or final momentum of body with the initial momentum. So for a given body, then mass M can be treated as a constant. For a given body, mass M can be treated as a constant. So you can say for a given body, kinetic energy is directly proportional to square of the magnitude of linear of the body. And magnitude of, or we can say magnitude of the linear momentum is directly proportional to square root of the kinetic energy. Suppose the magnitude of the linear momentum of the body is doubled. That means magnitude of final momentum is 2 times the magnitude of initial momentum. And the final kinetic energy of the body will be 2 square times or 4 times the initial kinetic energy of the body. In another example, if you are given the translational kinetic energy of the body is doubled, that means final kinetic energy of the body is 2 times its initial kinetic energy. Then magnitude of final moment of the body will be root 2 times the magnitude of initial moment of the body. Next, I am going to discuss 2 special cases in the relationship between linear momentum and kinetic energy. So next, I am going to discuss 2 special cases in the relationship between kinetic energy and linear momentum. Then we discuss some objective questions and numerical problems. We come across good number of examples where 2 bodies of different masses have same magnitude of linear momentum. Of course, in your board textbook, some of the textbooks meant for your board examination, you have been discussed about conservation of linear momentum along with laws of motion under the heading laws of motion. But here after work for energy, I will be dealing it separately. That means I will be discussing the topic with heading center of mass and conservation of linear momentum. So we'll be separately discussing the topic. So in that topic, particularly when you have center of mass and conservation of linear momentum, we come across number of examples where two bodies of different masses have same magnitude of linear momentum. And you may have to compare their kinetic energies. So let M1 and M2 denote the mass of two bodies. And V1 bar and V2 bar are the linear velocities of the two bodies. Suppose magnitude of linear momentum of the first body is same as magnitude of linear momentum of the second body. And let us suppose magnitude of linear momentum of each body is denoted by P. And let us suppose each body is in translatory motion. And the translatory the kinetic of the first body of mass M1 is given by P square by 2M1. And translational kinetic of second body of mass M2 is given by P square by 2M2. Therefore, ratio of the kinetic energies of the two bodies. Multiply kinetic energy of M1 with reciprocal of kinetic energy of M2. P square by 2M1 into 2M2 by P square. So you get kinetic energy of M1 divided by kinetic energy of M2 is equal to M2 by M1. So we come across good number of problems and examples in this chapter and also particularly in the next chapter which we are going to discuss later, that is conservation of linear momentum, where two bodies of different masses have same magnitude of linear momentum. So in general, if two bodies of different masses have same magnitude of linear momentum in pure translatory motion, then the ratio of their kinetic energies will be equal to inverse ratio of their masses. This example will of course again discuss in the next chapter, conservation of linear momentum. So body is at rest or bomb is at rest initially and explodes into two parts due to its own internal forces. And from conservation of momentum, we can say that just after explosion, the two parts have same magnitude of momentum but move in opposite direction. Because final momentum just after explosion, we equate it to initial momentum just before explosion. The momentum just before explosion is 0, then the resultant momentum just after explosion is also 0. So that means if the body originally at rest explodes into two parts of different masses due to internal forces, then at the instant just after explosion, the two parts have same magnitude of momentum but move in opposite directions. In that case, you can write ratio of their kinetic energy is equal to inverse ratio of their masses. So like that you come across number of examples which come under this particular case. So if two bodies of different masses have same magnitude of linear momentum, we can directly write ratio of their kinetic energies, I mean translational kinetic energies, if both of them are performing only translator motion, is equal to inverse ratio of their masses. So if M1 is suppose less than M2, you look at these two equations. Right hand side in these two equations, your order P square is same. If M1 is less than M2, then kinetic energy of M1 will be greater than kinetic energy of M2. So in general, if two bodies of different masses have same magnitude of linear momentum, then the lighter mass possesses greater kinetic energy. And the ratio of their kinetic energies will be equal to the inverse ratio of their masses. This conclusion, better you remember this. Next, I am going to discuss second special case. So I consider a case opposite to the previous case. Suppose if two bodies of different masses possess equal kinetic energies. Let Let us denote the kinetic energy of each body by K. So in general, magnitude of linear momentum of the body of mass m in pure translatory motion in terms of its translational kinetic energy is given by P equal to root of 2m into Ke. So magnitude of linear momentum of the first body of mass m1, you can write root of 2m1 into kinetic energy of m1. Magnitude of linear momentum of second body of mass m2 is equal to root of 2m2 into kinetic energy of m2. If both the bodies have same kinetic energies denoted by K, then magnitude of linear momentum of the first body can be written as root of 2m1 into K, and magnitude of linear momentum of second body can be written as root of 2m2 into K. So ratio of the magnitudes of linear momenta of the two bodies will be equal to square root of the ratio of their masses. So if m2 is suppose greater than m1, then P2 will be greater than P1. That means if two bodies have different masses, suppose possess equal kinetic energies, then the heavier body will have greater magnitude of linear momentum compared to the lighter body. So next I am going to show you the notes for whatever I have discussed. So those who want to write the notes, you can start writing the notes. Come on, get ready with your notebook and pen. You can put the heading, side heading energy, then side heading kinetic energy. That means I am just going to show you the notes for the discussion which I have done so far. That means summary of the discussion which I have done so far in the year under the heading energy. So translational kinetic energy of the body is equal to half into mass of the body into square of modulus of velocity of the body. Or you can write K equal to half mv square, which is always greater than or equal to 0 always. Next, you can put the side heading relationship between translational kinetic energy and linear momentum. So magnitude of the linear momentum of the body of mass m moving with velocity of magnitude v given by P equal to mv. You can also write v equal to P by m. So kinetic energy can be written as half mv square, which you can write half mv into v. You can write mv equal to P, so half PV. Come on, finish writing this. Those who are copying the notes, come on, finish copying the notes. That means I am just showing the notes for whatever I have discussed already in this class about the term energy and kinetic energy. So in case you need more time to copy these notes, you can take a pause and take your own time. I'm going to show the notes continuation for this. Can substitute V equal to P by M, that is K equal half PV, so you can substitute V equal P by M there. So half PV can be written as half P to P by M, or K equal P square by 2M. So translational kinetic energy of the body in terms of linear momentum P given by K equal P square by 2M. So from same equation you can write 2M into K equal P square. Or magnitude of linear momentum of the body in terms of kinetic energy is given by P equal to root of 2M into Ke. For a given body, mass m is a constant, Ke proportional to V square, or you can say Ke proportional to P square. So suppose the magnitude of linear momentum of a body of mass m changes from Pi to Pf in a particular example, and the initial kinetic energy of the body is given by Pi square by 2M. And final kinetic energy of the body you can write Pf square by 2M. So for a given body, mass m is a constant. So ratio of the final kinetic energy and initial kinetic energy of the body in pure translatory motion, can write Pf by Pi whole square. Pi is the magnitude of initial moment of the body. Pf is the magnitude of final moment of the body. Come on, copy this, finish writing. Suppose magnitude of final moment of the body is n times the magnitude of initial moment of the body. That means Pf equal n times Pi. Then Pf by Pi becomes n. Then K final kinetic energy by initial kinetic energy becomes n square. That means the magnitude of final linear momentum of a body of mass m is suppose n times the magnitude of initial momentum. Then translational kinetic energy of the body, I mean final kinetic energy of the body, will be n square times its initial kinetic energy. So in case you need more time to copy, you can take a pause. I'm going to show you the notes continuation for this. So look at the two special cases which I have discussed. Case 1, if m1 to mod of v1 bar equal to m2 into mod of v2 bar equal to p. That means two bodies of different masses m1 and m2 moving with different velocities v1 bar and v2 bar have same magnitude of momentum p, suppose. And kinetic energy of m1 is given by p square by 2m1 and kinetic energy of m2 is given by p square by 2m2. Therefore, kinetic energy of m1 by kinetic energy of m2 will get m2 by m1. So if m1 is less than m2, then kinetic energy of m1 is more than kinetic energy of m2. So this is the conclusion here. Two bodies of different masses have same magnitude of linear momentum. Then so look at the conclusion of the special case 1. If two bodies of different masses have same magnitude of linear momentum and the lighter body possesses greater kinetic energy compared to the heavier body, and the ratio of their kinetic energies will be equal to the inverse ratio of their masses. Come on, copy down this. So in case you need more time to copy these notes, you can take a pause and take your own time. I'm going to show you the next case 2 here. So in general, ratio of magnitude of linear moment of two bodies in pure translatory motion is given by P1 by P2 equal to root of 2m1 into Ke1 divided by root of 2m2 into Ke2. Ke1 is the kinetic energy of mass m1 and Ke2 is the kinetic energy of mass m2. If kinetic energy of m1 is same as the kinetic energy of m2, then P1 by P2 will get root of m1 by m2. So if m1 is less than m2 or m2 greater than m1, then P1 will be less than P2, or you can say P2 greater than P1. Come on, copy down this. So in case you need some more time to copy this, you can take a pause and take your own time. I'm going to show you the conclusion for case 2. The conclusion of the discussion case 2 is that if two bodies of different masses possess equal kinetic energies, then the heavier body will have greater magnitude of linear momentum compared to the lighter body. Come on, copy down this. In case you need some time to copy, you can take a pause. So next I am going to discuss about work energy theorem. Again, you stop writing the notes. You can stop writing the notes, you start listening. I will show you the notes for this later. So work energy theorem is the most important concept in the entire chapter, work power energy. So we repeatedly use this work energy theorem in good number of problems, not only in this chapter work power energy, also in the subsequent topics in mechanics and also some of the problems in second year syllabus. So this work energy theorem gives you the relationship between kinetic energy of the body and work done by the resultant external force acting on the body. So according to the work energy theorem, the change in the kinetic energy of the body will be equal to the work done by the resultant external force acting on the body. So change in the kinetic energy of a rigid body will be equal to the work done by the resultant external force acting on the body. So we are going to discuss the proof part for this work energy theorem. First we discuss the proof part for simpler case, where the body moves in a straight line path with constant acceleration under the action of an external force which acts in the direction of its motion. That means we are first discussing the work energy theorem for simpler situation where the body moves in a straight line path with uniform acceleration under the action of constant external forces. So initial kinetic energy of the body can write half into mass of the body, the square of the initial velocity of the body, denoted by U, or some of the books that may be denoted by VI. So here VI or U both mean same, that is initial velocity or magnitude of initial velocity of the body. The final kinetic energy of the body after the body moves some distance, yes, can be done half mv square or half mvf square. Here Vf or V represent the magnitude of final velocity after it has moved some distance. So change in the kinetic energy of the body is written as delta K. That is equal to final kinetic energy of the body minus initial kinetic energy of the body. That you can write half mv square minus half mu square. Or half m into v square minus v square. For the body moving in a straight line path with constant acceleration, v square minus v square can be done 2as, where a is the acceleration of the body and s is the displacement covered. So change in the kinetic of the body after it moves a displacement s with uniform acceleration equal ma into s. From Newton's second law, product of the mass of the body and linear acceleration of the body will be equal to the resultant external force acting on the body. Product of mass and acceleration of the body will be equal to resultant of all the external force acting on the body multiplied by displacement gives you the work done by the resultant external force acting on the body. So change in the kinetic energy of a rigid body when the body undergoes some finite displacement will be equal to work done by the resultant of all the external force acting on the body. Or we write change in the kinetic energy of the body is equal to work done by the resultant force of the body, we denote it by W. But as I discussed in the past, when several external forces act on a body, work done by the resultant external force acting on the body will be equal to algebraic sum of the works done by the individual external forces which are acting on the body. There are W1, W equal W1 plus W2 plus W3 up to Wn. Here n represents the number of external forces acting on the body. And W represents work done by resultant of all the external forces acting on the body. That means if we substitute this value of W on the right side, we can say that delta Ke equal to W1 plus W2 plus W3 up to Wn. That means in general, the rigid body is under the action of several external forces. Then change in the kinetic energy of the body will be equal to the algebraic sum of the works done by all the individual external forces acting on the body. So we have here I have discussed the proof for work energy theorem in the case of one-dimensional motion with constant acceleration. But work energy theorem also holds good even in the case of motion with variable acceleration. So next I discuss the proof for work energy theorem for one-dimensional motion with variable acceleration or non-uniform acceleration. So next I am discussing the proof for work energy theorem for a body, for rigid body moving in a straight line path where the acceleration may or may not be constant. That means in some of the problems acceleration may be uniform. In some of the example acceleration may not be constant. But we can show that work energy theorem holds good even when the body moves with variable acceleration. So if you consider a body moving in a straight line path, then the instantaneous value of the resultant of all the external forces acting on the body can be written as m into a, where a is the instantaneous acceleration. So we can write the instantaneous acceleration for a body in one-dimensional motion as dv by dt, that is the rate of change of velocity, which you can also write it as dv by dx into dx by dt. That means I use letter x for position coordinate of the body. That means we choose the direction of the motion or line of motion of the body as x-axis. That means we are considering the case where the body moves along x-axis and with some acceleration which may not be uniform, may or may not be uniform. So dx by dt gives you the instantaneous velocity, so we can write it as v dv by dx. You can substitute this value of acceleration in this equation from here. So resultant external force acting on the body can write mv into dv by dx. So the work done by the resultant external force for infinite small displacement dx. Here F represents the resultant force acting on the body which acts along the direction of the motion of the body here. That means we are discussing a simpler situation of a motionless body in a straight line path where the acceleration may not be uniform. That means in general acceleration may or may not be uniform. So F can be written as mv into dv by dx into dx. So dw, the work done by the resultant force when the velocity changes by infinitesimal small amount dv from v to v plus dv is given by mv dv. mv is the mass of the body. So total work done by the resultant force of the body when the velocity changes from vi to vf can be found by integrating dw between the limits vi to vf. The mass m can be treated as a constant in the integration. So you can put m outside the integral symbol. So integral v dv will be equal to v square by 2. So work done by the resultant force on the body, you can write half mvf square minus half mvi square. Vi is the magnitude of initial loss to the body and vf is the magnitude of final loss to the body. Half mvi square gives you the initial kinetic energy of the body. Half mv square gives you the final kinetic energy of the body. Therefore, work done by the resultant external force on the body will be equal to the change in the kinetic energy of the body. Or you can say change in the kinetic energy of the rigid body will be equal to the work done by the resultant of all the external forces acting on the rigid body. So here we have discussed the derivation for work energy theorem for one-dimensional motion. That is for motion in straight line path where acceleration may or may not be constant. But of course, we can also discuss the proof in a more general way. That means we can also discuss the proof for work energy theorem for three-dimensional motion in the space where the body may not be moving in a straight line path. But the proof is not needed for the board examinations, for the intermediate 11th class first year exam or for 11th class students. As observed that you have not been discussed the proof for three-dimensional case in the textbooks intended for junior intermediate and 11th class students. You have just discussed the proof only for situations where the body moves in a straight line path, where acceleration may or may not be uniform. But it is also, we can also derive the proof for work energy theorem for three-dimensional case. In case some of the students are very much interested for the proof for three-dimensional case, we are prepared to give this send for the proof for you through an email or you can contact at our office. So next I am going to show you the notes for the same thing which I have discussed just now about work energy theorem. You please get ready with your notebook and pen again. I am going to show you the notes for the summary of the discussion for our work energy theorem. So go on, write the heading work energy theorem in your notebook. First shown the statement of the work energy theorem on the screen. I will once read it out. Change in the kinetic energy of the body will be equal to the work done by the resultant external force on the body. So mathematically we write delta K equal to W. Here W represents the work done by resultant force of the body. But W equal W1 plus W2 plus W3 etc. up to Wn. Of course, it is understood that W1, W2 etc. up to Wn denote work done by these. I mean works done by the individual external force acting on the body. That means I am again summarizing the discussion I have done for about work energy theorem. So you can write delta Ke, substituting this value of W on the right side here. Delta Ke can be written as W1 plus W2 plus W3 up to Wn, where N represents the number of external force acting on the body. Let me change the kinetic of the body is equal to algebraic sum of works done by all the external force acting on the body. Can write delta Ke equal to final kinetic energy minus initial kinetic energy. Because some of the problems you may be directly given the values of initial and final kinetic energies, numerical values. Some of the problems you may be given the mass of the body and magnitudes of initial and final velocities. And the change in the kinetic energy can write half mv square minus half mu square or half m into v square minus v square. That you can write W1 plus W2 up to Wn. Here of course understood that u is the magnitude of initial velocity of the body. V is the magnitude of final velocity of the body. Come on, copy down this. In case you need more time to copy the notes, you can take a pause and take your time. I am going to show the notes continuation for this. So this conclusion is very important, which we use in many problems in mechanics. When several external forces act on a body, then the change in the kinetic energy of the body will be equal to algebraic sum of works done by the individual external forces acting on the body. Come on, copy down this conclusion. So next I will be discussing about some special cases in the work energy theorem. So come on, look at the conclusion. This is an important conclusion, as I was telling you. Please copy this conclusion. When several external forces act on the body, then the change in the kinetic energy of the body will be equal to the algebraic sum of the works done by the individual external forces acting on the body. This conclusion we use in good number of examples, not only in work power energy, in even other topics in mechanics. Come on, copy down this conclusion. So in my next class, I will be discussing some special cases in work energy theorem. In my next class, I will be discussing some special cases in work energy theorem. And I will also be discussing some problems on the work energy theorem.